Great to see so many new faces. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Right, so Jess, my other half, my beautiful other half, is going to give out the an essentials pack to everybody. She's going to do that now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the contents of the pack and break it apart and explain what it's for, what you do with it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is this. Now, there's two of these. This is a private property no trespassing notice. How many people here, by show of hands, have got a no trespassing sign on their property? Excellent, that's great to see, albeit not enough people, sadly. So, what you're going to do with this is you're going to put it on your property, either in your window, where it can be seen, so where it can be seen on approach to your the entrance of your property. So it doesn't have to be on the boundaries of it. You can put it there. You could attach, say, the smaller one, the A5, you could attach that to a post or something, or a board or a fence, or even just a wall, whatever. And put one in, make sure it's visible, so don't hide it behind a bush, right? Because it's very, very important. Right, now the reason this is so important is because if you don't have a notice, right, your property has an automatic implied right of access. All private land has an implied right of access unless it states otherwise. And this states otherwise. This says no trespassing, right? So I'm going to read through the elements of the no trespassing notice. Okay, so here we go. Entry by officers, representatives, agents or contractors of HM government, charities or private corporations is strictly prohibited, including but not limited to local authority, police, sheriffs, bailiffs, debt collectors, civil enforcement, high court enforcement, hawkers or any agents or parties acting on behalf of a charity or private corporation. For those who don't know what hawkers are, it's people hawking their wares at your door, coming and trying to sell you cleaning products, etc. Right, all rights, powers, privileges and immunities, whether actual, contingent or prospective, are reserved in common law, no consensual power of attorney. Now, this is so important because, like I say, there is always an implied right of access there if you don't state otherwise, until you remove that implied right of access and say, I don't wish for you to be on my property, please leave my property. Then, if they remain within the property, they are committing a trespass. Now, the state, the court system, do take trespassing very seriously, right? Because this actually is originally created to protect their land, yeah, their property. Yeah, it's just that what I like to do is take what protects them and use it for us, for our protection. So my protection, your protection. I'm basically all about, I'm a peace officer, so I'm not a peace constable. I don't go around arresting people under common law, anything like that. I operate essentially within this system, which is the Maritime Admiralty system, right? The whole system is a fraud, but you may as well exploit that fraud for your own benefit. That's the way I see it. It's going nowhere fast, right? So it's the status quo, it's what we have, it's what we deal with, it's what we live with. You can, of course, follow common law. I know a hell of a lot about common law. I've studied it for many years. I love the subject, right? And there is common law rights that they use, the elites, right, that you can use too. Yeah, simple as that, right? So this is one of those things. They want to protect their property, their private land, their golf courses, etc., etc. Yeah, and they don't want anybody being able to trespass upon it without them being able to have them removed or removing them themselves. So because they've got this in place, you can use that too. You can immediately, the moment you put this up, you've immediately taken away the implied rights of access, right? They no longer exist now. You've also added a disclaimer part here, not disclaimer, but exceptions to the rule. It says the owner/tenant reserves the right of entry for patrons and emergency services, because you're not going to deny an ambulance coming in and start harassing them. Postal and delivery services, of course, your Amazon deliveries, etc. Family, friends, clients, or tradesmen / women by appointment, right? So that means an appointment has to be signed off on both sides, right? For it to establish appointment. You can't have somebody saying, I'm coming round your house at such and such a time, 6 p.m, and that's the appointment. If you say, I don't want you coming around my house at 6 p.m, I'll be having my dinner, you know? So, yeah, so by appointment only, right? Now, the bit underneath is the notice of liability. So this is for anybody who trespasses and continues to trespass. And I'll explain the relevance of this when it comes to things like police and bailiffs, etc. shortly. Right, so, notice of liability. Statutory legislation does not apply. Any violators of this notice may be held liable in their private, individual capacity for the sum of not less than £2,500. Now, the reason I put that, you'll see a lot of notices that will say, you know, £250,000 or £1 million or a squidillion pounds, you know, any massive figure. But you want them to take this seriously, right? This is an amount that you could pursue them in a small claims court, anything up to £10,000 in a small claims court. Anything else, you've got to go through a whole different system, jump through a lot of hoops, going to cost you a lot of money, take up a lot of your time, right? So you need something that is going to make them think, well, hang on a minute, I don't want a penalty. You know, if they saw £1 trillion written on there, if you trespass, yeah, they're not going to take that seriously. No, that's unenforceable. Yeah, nobody is going to pay £1 trillion, and no judge or magistrate would uphold that, right? So it's important that it has a reasonable amount, enough to deter them, right? Upon raising the attention of the occupants, now raising the attention means knocking on your door, yeah, or shouting through your letterbox, or peering through your window, or even just standing there looking at your car on the driveway. If it got your attention, they are now liable, right? And they agree to this by their trespass. These are the terms and conditions. Upon raising the attention of the occupants, all violators of this notice agree to pay a fee of £1,000 to the owner / tenant of this private property, including all fees incurred in the collection of any fees accumulated. So, if they raise your attention, like I say, they now owe you a further £1,000. They now owe you £3,500, right? All lawful occupants within this property reserve the right to use physical force in the removal of any violators of this trespass notice. Now, that is your right anyway, with somebody who is trespassing and refusing to leave your property. You then have a lawful and legal right to use reasonable force to remove them beyond the boundaries of your property, right? As soon as they get onto public property, you can no longer manhandle them, otherwise you're committing an offence, right? So, but while they're on your property, and even police admit to this, I've seen plenty of videos of police, you know, explaining to someone, well, they can remove you physically. Yeah, if you resist, we would arrest you for breaching the peace, right? So the same applies to you. This is your private property. This protects you. This puts like an invisible force field around your home, yeah, and stops them from having that automatic ability to come and bang on your door. Now, it's not going to stop everyone, because we're dealing with idiots here, you know. When it comes to bailiffs, they're not the most intelligent people. They certainly know about trespass, right? It's part of their job, okay? In order to come out to people's houses, they have to be licensed, right? They have to have identification. They have to show you that identification upon request. They should show you it at the earliest opportunity. So, and you have a right to see it. So, when someone like a bailiff turns up and knocks on your door and you've got a sign up, right, they're going to want to speak to, in my case, Mr. David Stewart, right? Now, they're waiting for me to say, yes, that's me, right? And they've created their legal joinder. They can do business with me. Simple as that. All comes down to the Settercay v Act of 1666. Who here has heard of the Settercay v Act 1666? Good number of you, brilliant. Right, for those who haven't, let me just briefly explain it. The Settercay v Act was written in French back during the Great Fire of London. The reason it was created was, I say created, it was actually amended from King Henry VIII. He originally wrote the Act, or gave it royal assent. So it was amended back in 1666 during the Great Fire of London as an opportunity to create this new system. So it would have been back then the equivalent of now being the Great Reset. And the churches are where people used to register their births, deaths and marriages, right? They were at the local parish church. So of course the government of the time, the King Charles II, decided they were going to change this new system and declare everybody lost at sea, right? And they've got 7 years from that moment of being declared lost at sea to come forward and claim their property, their trust, their belongings. Until then, they're going to be their items that they own or their estate is going to be held in trust, which is where you get the birth trust and the birth certificate, which signifies the trust, the legal fiction. That's all it is, a legal fiction. Many people, I mean, for example, my name, like I said, Mr. David Paul Stewart is my full title and name under that legal fiction. But I'm not Mr. David Paul Stewart. I'm Davey. That's how everybody knows me. I'm a living man. Yeah, I'm not a legal fiction. I choose when to be a legal fiction. If I want to use my cash card, that's got Mr. David P. Stewart on it. You know, if I want to, you know, buy something on the internet, I have to use my legal fiction. But I don't have to use my legal fiction if I don't want to. That's my choice. The trouble is, the state have got a habit of conning you into using a creative joinder with your legal fiction, and therefore they can do business with you. Because a legal fiction is a dead entity. Okay? It's a corporation. And corporation, corp comes from the word corpse, meaning dead, and oration is to speak. So it's dead speak. Okay? So that's what a corporation is. It's a dead entity. It's considered like a spirit. Yeah? It's the spirit of the human that was given a live birth and then immediately disappeared. Nobody saw it. Right? Within 6 weeks, it was then registered. And suddenly, they saw it in the form of a spirit. Yeah? Which is why, when you're older, you can be summoned to court. Because you can only summon a spirit. You can summon the dead, but you can't summon a sovereign person. It's not possible. Okay? So you are summoned to court, right? Because you are gestated in fluid, right, water, and because maritime admiralty law governs every single body of water on the planet, okay, including the water inside your mother's belly, they can incorporate and use that and say that you were born as a vessel, okay, nothing more than a vessel. Yeah? You were born through a birth canal, yeah, which is a shipping term, obviously, as I say, canal. Okay? A birth, the word birth, is also a shipping term. Yeah? If you go to a court, you're in a dock, which is classed as a dry dock. It's a shipping term. The flag will have gold braiding all around the outside if there's a flag in the court. That signifies international maritime admiralty law operating within the country of the flag it's displayed around. Right, so all of this relates to admiralty law. Yeah? And admiralty law is the law of trade. Yeah? It's created so that we had trust between people when trading internationally. Ships come into dock, yeah, you want to trust that they're going to pay you, for example. So you set up a contract with them, yeah, and therefore that contract is now enforceable under international maritime law. And every country throughout the world incorporated that international maritime law into their own laws. Okay, they're all incorporated into their own laws. So there's much they don't teach you at school. This stuff they should teach you at school, you know. And it's important for you to understand from a young child. You know, it's crazy how they get away with dumbing down society, basically dumbing down kids. Yeah, and not teaching them the things they should know that will protect them or even help them in future. Okay, the human brain is nothing more than an organic computer, and it's the easiest computer, the most complex computer, but the easiest computer to program. You know, if I all said to you yellow banana, instantly you're going to picture a yellow banana. Yeah, that's programming. That's how I do it. That's a simple exercise, but I can get you to do stuff just by using my thoughts, my actions, and then creating interactions, and based on what I say that back up those actions will depend on whether you interact, you see. So that's how the world works. It's so simple, but the trouble is the state have installed their operating system within our organic computers and that of our kids. So people have very little understanding of the laws that actually protect them, the rights that they have, the systems they can exploit too. If you move into a new house, it doesn't come with a sign already attached, usually. It doesn't come with a sign attached, so you've got to attach the sign. But if you don't know that you need a sign to protect you, to create an invisible force field, then you probably won't put up a sign. And therefore, you're vulnerable, right? The laws that protect them are exploiting you. So it's important that this goes up on your property. It gives you immediate protection, okay? Now, as I say, there's two of those, yeah? Smaller one. Use one if you don't need to use two, or stick one at the front, one at the back of the property, one on the fence, one near the door. I've got one in my window, and I've got like a little tiny porch bit, open porch bit, which I've got one, an A4 one, right on the wall next to the door. Okay, so now, when a bailiff comes to your door, and he's saying, "Oh, Mr. David Stewart," the first thing I want to do is ask him who he is. Don't confirm who I am. First thing I do is say, "Sorry, who are you?" Right, and then they'll give me their name. Yeah, or show. If they don't show me their ID, ask for their ID. Right, have you got any ID? Now there's a reason you're doing that, because by knocking on your door, they've just created joinder to this. And how this works is the same as a private car park. You park your car in a private car park. Yeah, there's a sign on the wall with the terms and conditions of parking in their car park. It's called a tacit consent contract. That's exactly what this is. You're creating tacit consent, which is consent by your actions. When you park in that car park, you immediately have been deemed under law to have agreed to the terms and conditions of parking there, which means you've got to pay. If you don't pay, you're subject to the fine or the penalty that they put on there, £100, whatever, or your car might be clamped, etc., etc. So that's how they get away with that, right? Is just by having a sign and creating that tacit consent or tacit acquiescence. Okay, so this is what this does. Now, when they call at your door and they want to speak to you, and they want to talk to you about your council tax or a parking ticket or whatever it might be, first thing you do is say, after you've got their introduction, you say, you don't discuss that. They're trespassing. You don't discuss anything they want to discuss. What you do is you focus your attention on this sign. You say, did you see the sign? Right? Now they're going to confirm or deny that they've seen it. But once they've seen it, if they see it and say yes, right, you've just got their details, and you should record it, either have a little CCTV camera, ring doorbell, your phone, whatever. Record the interaction. One thing you should never do is refuse to answer and just hide behind your sofa. That's the worst thing you could do, right? Because as soon as you do that, they'll think, right, we'll come back, and then we'll come back again, then we'll come back again. What you want to do is get rid of them, right? So they don't come back again and harass you. Okay, that's what this is about, creating your peace, your peaceful zone, where you're safe from the outside world. You're not in commerce. You may do, some people, they say, oh yeah, but you do commerce in your home, don't you, if you're on the internet? Well, no, that's a virtual world. That's a window, that's a doorway to another world. That's not in my house. The laptop is, but the world isn't. It doesn't really exist, you know? So in my house, I do no commerce. Yeah? I don't do commerce in my house. It's a living human being domain, right? And this protects it. These signs protect it from the outside authorities who believe they have an implied right of access. I've taken that away straight away before they've even knocked on my door. If they knock on my door, excellent, you owe me £1,000. Yeah, and £2,500 for trespassing and not leaving when you saw the notice. Okay, if they didn't see the notice, then they'll say, and if they're genuine, and of course if they know the law, they'll look at you and they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see the sign there, I'll leave you to it, off I go, right? Because now they know they're trespassing. Okay, so you need to focus your attention on the sign, not the issue they want to talk about. You're not going to talk about that at all. Okay, you're not going to discuss that at all. They're trespassing, they're committing an offence. That's what you're dealing with now. You're dealing with that offence. You're not dealing with council tax or the parking ticket. Okay, they can't take anything off of your property, such as your car, because they're trespassing to do so, and you've taken that right to trespass away from them, right? Now, the trouble is, obviously, a lot of people have got cars that they park on the road. They haven't got their own parking space. And that's where this little thing comes in. This is another tacit consent notice, okay? And what this says, this goes where your tax disc would have gone years ago when we had tax discs on the car. So you just put that there, anywhere on the left-hand side of the windscreen so it can be seen. And it reads, important notice: by attaching any device or document to this vehicle, including but not limited to vehicle clamps, penalty charge notices, PCNs, devices, etc., you agree to pay a fee of not less than £250 plus all charges, penalties and fees relating to the PCN/clamp/device attached to this vehicle. The amount due shall be payable on demand to the registered keeper of this vehicle. Failure to pay may result in enforcement action being taken against you, whereby you agree to pay all legal costs/fees. And at the bottom it says notice to principal is notice to agent, notice to agent is notice to principal. Now, what this does, right, they may still stick a ticket on your car, they may still clamp it, they may still tow it away. But now they've created a tacit consent contract. So now you've got some kind of redress. Yeah? You can now take them to court, whoever put the device or the ticket onto your vehicle, because they don't have to do that. They don't have to attach a ticket to your vehicle that says penalty notice in a clear envelope. Okay, many people have got tickets, parking tickets, from a camera. Yeah? So a camera, if they can take that as evidence, they don't have to attach anything, right? So, but of course, they feel they do in order to create that so they can get the evidence and show the picture with it, you know, the ticket on there, right? But by doing that, they've just agreed to pay you £250 and any fees incurred in getting that £250 back off them, right? So that, yes, they may have put that ticket on there, they may be entitled. I mean, they're not really entitled, it's all a fraud anyway, but if they were under, you know, the law, and it was fully enforceable by the law, right, then it wouldn't make any difference, right? You'll still get done by that ticket, but they will now, they've given you a contract, agreed to a contract by their tacit consent, okay? So this This may put off some of them, right? It may not put off all of them, because like I say, some of them are proper dicks, right? So it may not put off all of them, right? But what it probably will put off is the tow truck driver that comes out, who's just doing his job. He's not a bailiff, he's not interested, he's a recovery driver, he comes along, collects what he's told to collect. But if he's going to, when you point out to him, hang on mate, have you read the notice, just so you know, these guys won't care because it's you putting the device on, the device being the towing hook or whatever it might be. If you put that device on there, mate, you've agreed to pay me £250 and all costs involved, right? He's not going to agree to that. He's not earning £250 for coming and taking away this vehicle, right? Now, another thing about a vehicle is that its value is important. Okay, so I've got a 2004 Vauxhall Zafira. Yeah, that's worth, according to my insurance company, £310 market value. Yeah, it's worth nothing, right? Now, when they take your car as payment, because you've got no signs, so they're not trespassing, right? When they take your car, they can only take it if a quarter of the market value, yeah, is more than the amount it costs to take it, store it, list it at auction and sell it and pay all fees. So if they can do that for 74 quid, they can take my car, which of course they can't. You know, I think they get charged a good couple of £100 by the towing company to come and take it, then £12 a day to store it, right? So if you are going to get a car, get a cheap car. A car that's worth nothing, yeah, because nobody wants it, which is brilliant, because then you've always got a car. You get some nice Tesla or something like that parked, and they're gonna start wetting themselves. They're gonna so excited. They're going to be saying, "I'm coming away today with some money, or a car, one or the other," right? So that's another way you can protect yourself. If there's nothing really there to take, then they'll just leave you alone anyway. They'll put it on your records back at their office to say, not worth going again. Because at the end of the day, it costs them money to come to you. It costs, you know, we all know the cost of fuel these days. That costs a lot of money. Yeah, and they've got to pay the hourly rate of whoever they're sending out to do that. So, and I doubt they're very local, so they've probably come a fair distance, a good hour or two drive to come and see you. They normally do you on a route, right? But if they're getting nowhere with you, they just want to get on to the next one, where hopefully they'll get some money. That's the way they see it, okay? They're only interested in getting money, but they have no real right to get any money from you, okay? They'll come out and they'll say, "Oh, I can take possession of your goods." Well, only if I consent to it. Only if I say, "Yeah, go on then, and I'll sign that and agree to that, and I'll pay you so much back each month or each week or whatever," right? Then you create a contract and you've agreed to that, right? What they've got, a lot of people say, but they must have a warrant. They've got to have a warrant if that's the case. They haven't got a warrant at all. What they've got is a liability order. And let me explain what a liability order is. A liability order is nothing more than somebody sitting there going, "Right, okay, I've heard what you've got to say, I've heard what you've got to say, and I agree with you." That's it. That's all it is. It doesn't mean, right now, you've got to pay, or we'll send people round, or beat you up, or smash your door down, there's none of that at all. Okay? It's literally somebody's opinion. That's all a notice of liability is, and a liability order. Somebody else's opinion. Okay? So it has no legal or lawful bearing. That in itself is not enforceable. That just says that judge agrees with us, you owe us council tax. Right? And if you owe us council tax, we're going to send them fascist bully boys round to try and intimidate you into paying up. But those fascist bully boys, although they don't know much, they know the laws surrounding trespass. And when they also know when they're getting somewhere with you and when they're not getting somewhere with you. Right? And they don't want to waste their time. They want to create that joinder with you, of course, because then they're acting as a dead entity. The dead can always speak to the dead, but they can't speak to the living, and vice versa. So if you're operating under common law and living in the forest, completely off-grid, etc., etc., you know, that might be your bag. I mean, personally, I'm no great meers, so, you know, it's not really for me. I kind of like the comforts that this society provides, but I despise the fraud within it and how it's exploited to the max by people who can afford to, you know, at the expense of the little people. Because, of course, all you are to them, all you are to anybody in power at the state, whether it's local level or national level, all you are is cash cows, revenue. But they want money, they want more money, they want even more money. You know, how many times do you get taxed on the money that you earn? Not just income tax, but VAT and everything else that goes along with it, council tax, the lot. You know, they want everything you've got and the shirt off your back. Yeah, and they're hoping that one day they'll get all that and call it the Great Reset. Yeah? You will own nothing and you'll be happy. That's the plan of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab. So what you need to do before that ever has any possibility of happening is to protect yourselves. Okay? You need to, first of all, make sure they can't just come and storm into your home, yeah, and start kicking your door down or harassing you. Okay, so you've got your notices in place. Now they do, okay, you know, some will, they'll come and knock on your door, as I say, in which case then, like I say, point them to the notice. Did you see the notice? And when they say, yeah, I did see a notice, say, excellent, how would you like to pay? Simple as that. How would you like to pay? What do you mean, how would you like to pay? Well, you saw the notice, yeah? Yeah, well, how would you like to pay? You owe me, according to the notice, £3,500. Would you like to pay now? I've got a card machine. Would you like to pay now, or should I send the boys around and harass you and your family? You know, you can have whatever fun you want with them. They're going to go, no, but I need to discuss. Excuse me. You saw the sign. You know you're trespassing. You know you've got no implied rights of access. This takes it all away. Yeah. Why are you still here? If I have to remove you physically, you then owe me a further £10,000 because that's what it says on the sign. Okay? This bit. It says, upon the use of physical force, the trespass violator agrees to pay a fee of not less than £10,000. Occupants of this private property will not accept any liability or responsibility for the loss or damage to any personal or corporate belongings. Any clamps left attached to any vehicle within the boundaries of this private property shall be removed and disposed of accordingly, and shall incur a fee to the trespass violator of not less than £1,000. Right? So this is totting up for them if they stuck around. They're not going to stick around, trust me. There's plenty of other mugs out there that will go, oh my God, I can't believe you're here, I'm so sorry, I'll get my purse. You know what I mean? There's plenty of people out there that will do that. Or I'll sign a contract with you and agree to pay you, you know, every last penny I've got each month. Yeah, that'll do. Sometimes, most of the time, they'll say, no, it's not enough, we need at least half. But you're saying I owe £10,000. I haven't got, you know, I've only just been out and got the dinner and struggled to get sausages, you know. So, you know, how am I going to come up with that? Well, also doing there is asserting their authority. It's all psychological, the whole thing. It's why they're dressed the way they are. It's all psychology, okay? Because you've been indoctrinated to believe that, you know, uniforms such as this are authoritative uniforms. They've got meaning and power to them. That's why I wear this, to show you it's nothing but fancy dress. That's all it is. It's fancy dress. It holds no power. It's a colour, for crying out loud. It's a vest. It's the word peace, you know, or enforcement, or police. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a visual sign to make you anxious, to make you vulnerable, right? Because when you're vulnerable, you're more likely to give up your rights. You're more likely to stumble. As I say, that's why when they come to your door, it won't be a little tap, it'll be like that. Now they do that on purpose. It's a psychological trick they use. Because immediately you go into panic mode. What the hell is that? Jesus Christ. nearly jumped out my skin. You know, you're now in a vulnerable state. Yeah. So you go to the door, you're already shaking and panicking, your adrenaline's pumping. Yeah. You're not calm. When you're calm, you can deal with the situation. When they do that to my house, I go, here they go. Come on then, let's open the door. Right? And I open the door. Mr. Stewart, now last time I just went, yeah, that's me. Honestly, the guy nearly creamed his pants. Seriously. Because yes, I created joinder, and also my daughter's boyfriend's beautiful BMW, white BMW, worth many thousands of pounds, was parked also on my driveway. Right? But obviously my daughter and her boyfriend were just on their way out at the time when he called. Yeah? So he didn't get anywhere. When he saw that, he must have thought, yes, I'm getting paid today. This is brilliant. Well, I'm taking that. Definitely, that's a piece of shit. But that, I'm taking. You know? That's mine. Or I'm getting that. Yeah? So I'm getting my bonus. I'm getting my commission. Right? Got the fright of his life, and my daughter answered the door. She answered just before I got up to go to the door, and she's there, right there by the door. She opened it. He said, I need to speak to Mr. David Stewart. And she went, yeah, nothing to do with me. We're going out. That's my boyfriend's car. It's got nothing to do with us. And why the fuck, she said, are you parked across the driveway? And he's like, all right, huh? All right, there's no need to be rude, is there? And I said, well, she's got a point. I said, you're parked right across the driveway. You're not allowed to park there. That's a deep curve, mate. I said, you're liable for a fine from the council. You know? So he went over, he moved his van, she left. I shut the door. And I waited there and I'm thinking, come on, they're coming back. A little jostle with them. Right, so he came back and he go, right, okay, Mr. David Stewart. And I went, yeah, that's me. And he said, right, okay, we need to discuss your council tax. I said, no, I don't think I want it. He went, what do you mean? I said, well, no, I don't think I want it. I don't want to talk about council tax. I'll talk about council tax for. No, I'm all right, thanks. See ya. Just shut the door. That was it. He left. Nothing in his pocket. Okay? Now, that's because I refuse to talk about what they want to talk about. I'm not giving them the power. The word asking, as in asking questions, is as king, right? Which means they're putting themselves above you by asking questions. Okay? And you don't have to answer anybody's questions. Not the police, not the courts, nobody's. That's your right. You can remain silent at all times. And you'll find this with the police. When they arrest people, they'll say things like, oh, you've got to give us your details because you've been arrested. Well, then why did the first line you read to me read, you do not have to say anything? How does that work? You read me my rights and then told me I had to say something. Doesn't make any sense, does it? So like I say, you've got a lot of rights. Yeah, it's just that usually the circumstances, the techniques they use are there to try and trick you, first of all, into creating joinder. Now, I willingly created joinder because you're still not getting anything out of me. Yeah, still not getting anything out of me. You're not getting past me. You're not getting in my house. You're not taking my 300 quid car. We know that, you know. So what else has he got? He's just got to go. And he left. And it's as simple as that. The trick is to not get worried or scared about them coming. They're just people. Yeah? They're just people, that's it. They're not these mighty, powerful forces. They can't physically assault you. They're not allowed. Okay? There's only 3 things that they're backed up by the law that says they can break into your, or force entry, should I say, right, into your home, which basically means they can get a locksmith out to open your door. But they can't physically force past you. Yeah, that's assault. That's different. They can force open the door, but they can't force open you or force past you, right? But those 3 things are income tax, stamp duty, or criminal fines. Anything else is just pure consent. If you give your consent, that's it. Yeah, you will only talk about it if you want to talk about it. They can only talk to a dead entity, i.e. your legal fiction. If you're not identifying your legal fiction under their laws, they can't talk to you. Yeah, they can't discuss it with you. It's data protection. We can only speak to the person who's listed on this so-called writ. It's not really a writ. Right? How they get those liability orders, say the council, for example, whether it's parking fines or whether it's council tax, what they do is they hire the court for the day, right? And they have maybe, I don't know, 100 people appearing that haven't paid their council tax. Yeah, 100 people that day that are told you've got to turn up at court or it'll be heard in your absence, right? Now, of course, most of us believe that in this country you're innocent till proven guilty. Yeah, that's only in common law. That's with common law offences, such as, you know, when you cause harm, injury, or loss to somebody, or fraud. Those concepts of the four main principles of common law: do no harm and stuff like that. Right? Everything else is completely different. It's legal. It's got nothing to do with common law. Okay, and those things are not enforceable. Yeah, they're not enforceable by anybody coming round your door and saying, "Give us your money." Okay, especially if they're not allowed to be on that property because you've removed their right of access. They can only get to your door if there's a right of access. Yeah, implied albeit. Yeah, but you've removed that now. They can't do that. If they do, like I say, they're committing an offence under the law. If they get aggressive, it's aggravated trespass. And then the police can be involved. Now, moving on to the police, right, you'll get occasions where you'll say, "No, come on, off you go, put your hands up, oh, that's it, I'm ringing the police, assault, excuse me, please send somebody, I'm being assaulted, I'm here with a writ of possession, blah, blah, blah," right, it's all nonsense, but police turn up, right, and they say, "Right, Mr. Stewart, we're here to facilitate this man doing his job." No, you're not. You're here to prevent the breach of the peace. And this man is clearly breaching the peace. He is trespassing, there is a sign. Yeah? And if you help him, you're also guilty of an offence. And that's where this laminated sheet comes in. Now this, you keep handy somewhere where you can get to it, should that situation arise. And what this is the Criminal Justice and Courts Act of 2015, section 26. And I'm going to read some of it. So, it says, Section 26 makes it an offence for a police officer and certain other persons to exercise improperly the powers and privileges of a constable. It supplements the existing common law offence of misconduct in public office, which is a very, very, very serious offence. Subsection 1 provides that a police constable, defined in subsection 3, commits an offence if he or she exercises the powers and privileges of a constable improperly and the officer knows or ought to know that it is improper. Subsection 2 provides that a person guilty of the offence is liable on conviction on indictment to a sentence, imprisonment of 14 years or a fine or both. Now I'm going to just skip to subsection 4. Which says, provides that a police constable exercises the powers and privileges of a constable improperly if the exercise of a power or privilege is for the purpose of achieving a benefit to the officer or a benefit or detriment for another person. So that means he cannot facilitate them getting money from me. Okay? He can only prevent common law offences from taking place, breaching the peace. Okay, that's all he can do. Now, as I say, they're breaching the peace. Yeah, they are the ones breaching the peace. So you can say to the officers, right, I'm now going to remove these people, and if they resist, please arrest them for aggravated trespass. Okay? If you try to facilitate them doing your job, you're guilty of an offence and can receive up to 14 years in prison. Yeah, essentially misconduct in a public office. Right, so this is your reference point for any, because I've had that situation before. Right, when my daughter, she was 15 at the time, she's now 22, she was at my sister's flat. Right? My sister lives in a tower block, 8-storey tower block. She's on the 5th floor. Right? So there's only one way into my sister's flat, yeah, and that's the front door. Right? So she's round my sister's flat during the day, and there's a knock on the door. Right? My daughter says, "I'll go and get it," to my sister. Right? She goes and answers the door, and it's a bailiff. "I need to speak to Miss Paula Stewart." And she said, "Okay, I'll just go and get her." So she went down the long hallway to go and get her. But of course she didn't close the door. Right? The door's left ajar. She didn't know any better, it's not her fault. But this guy just walked straight in. Right? Now the problem with my sister is she's quite a fiery redhead. Yeah? And she come darting down that hallway like a steam train into him and literally threw him out. All 5'4" of her. Literally threw him out. Big burly bloke. Right? So straight away, "Oh, police, help, protect me, I'm being assaulted by a mad woman." Right? They said, I think it was 8 officers in total. 2 of them were downstairs. When I turned up, because my nephew rang me and said, "David, quick, come." So I got there within just a couple of minutes. I didn't live far away. Got there within a couple of minutes. I could see the police had just turned up on the ground floor. Yeah, so I carried on, went up to they were talking to the bailiff. And I went up to my sister's flat and I waited there for them to knock on the door. And then I answered the door. Now it was, like I say, there was, in the little foyer bit, there was 6 police officers and this bailiff. Right? 2 of them, like I say, stayed downstairs. I guess in case, you know, my sister wanted to crawl down the outside of the building like Spider-Woman. Do you know what I mean? To get away from the nasty man. So, yeah, I answered the door, and this copper, this PC, police constable, he said, right, he said, "We're here to facilitate this man doing his job." And I said, "No, you're not, sunshine." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "You're here to prevent a breach of the peace. Am I right?" "Well, we're here to," he's got I said, "I don't care what he's got. Let's talk about your job." I said, "You're here to prevent a breach of the peace." I said, "If you don't believe me, if you think I'm lying to you, get on your radio now, speak to your superior officer and ask him whether you're here to prevent a breach of the peace or to assist a bailiff in executing a civil debt." So he got on his radio. Of course, it wasn't on loud. He had his earpiece in. He radioed through. He came back. He said, "Right, we're going to leave you to it." And off they went. And that was that. Of course, he didn't want to press charges against. He's a big burly bloke, yeah, and his authoritative black vest and everything. This bailiff, and she's this skinny little 5'4", fiery, feisty, breathing fire redhead, right? So he didn't want any part of that, and also he'd accidentally, well I say accidentally, he'd stepped on her foot and therefore left a bit of a graze, a little bit of a bruise. She bruises like a peach, but she hits like Mike Tyson. Yeah, he had no marks, of course, but she clearly had a mark. Well, they didn't want to know then. They were off, as was the bailiff. They advised him, leave him to it, off you go. And that was it, they left. Right? So police will sometimes say to you, "Oh, we're here to facilitate this man doing his job." It's up to you then to say, excuse me. No. Yeah, read that way. Yeah, have a little read of that. As soon as they read that, they'll know, because they know deep down. Like I say, they hope that you don't know. There's lots of things they don't teach you at school, so they hope that you haven't learnt them up till now. I said many things that are going to help you through life. It'd have been helpful when I was a teenage boy if they'd have said to me, "Oh, by the way, lads, yeah, as you get older, your testicles are going to become elongated, yeah." You You know, that's important information to me. Lots of stuff they could have taught me. That's important information to me. I could have worn more supportive underpants growing up. You know? Instead, I turned to 55 2 weeks ago, and now my balls get out of bed 3 seconds after I do. You know? So, just hanging out one leg of my boxer shorts, dragging along. I can tell you, scrotal carpet birds, no fun at all. Okay? Worst thing is when I go downstairs in the morning, it sounds like EastEnders has just finished. Like, I have to shout up to Jess and to say, don't worry babe, you haven't overslept, it's just my balls, don't worry, don't panic. So yeah, there's lots of things they don't teach us at school that they should do. Plenty of things. Yes, sorry, a question.
Going back to the officer.
Yes. I didn't see his balls, I'll be honest. Didn't measure them.
And this section.
Yes.
If he's given you his name and his number,
Yeah.
can you not immediately bite back and say, I've got you?
What do you mean by back? All you have to do is take you. All
No,
you.
he's given me evidence. He's just
Yeah.
here to facilitate.
Yeah. I mean, one thing you should definitely do is put in a complaint against them to the IPCC, right? Put in a complaint. No, not IPCC. What's it? The other one. That's the press complaint. What's the one?
The ICO.
The ICO. No, IPSO. Is it? Independent Police Complaints Officer or whoever it is. So put in a complaint to their authorities and say, you know, so that if lots of people do that, right, then more people will be educated as to what their rights are, and therefore the authorities will know that, and they'll improve the training, hopefully in time, right? Or they'll ignore it, one or the other. That's the thing. They can do what they want at the end of the day. This is about protecting yourself, okay? It's not about really, you know, going after them or making... It can be. I mean, some people enjoy that kind of thing. You know, oh, I want to make a point here, I want to go after them. I've been like that myself before. I want to go after them. But what they're forgetting is, no, stop them from coming after you, right? Create your peace, create your zone, yeah, where you're at peace, where your family don't have to worry about banging on the door, right? So create your own peace. That's all you have to do. And it's so simple to do that. Most people, they think, oh, but if I owe... You know, it stems back to the days of debtors' jails, really, and that psychology still comes, you know, into modern day society. You feel like you're a criminal if you owe them money, right? But you're not a criminal. Yeah? It's just a contract, that's all. It's nothing more than a contract under Admiralty law. Yeah? And it's only given consent by you. And if you breach that contract, yeah, then they still can't get you. Okay, they still can't get you. They can try and hold you liable, but they can't enforce it. That's the problem. By enforcing it, they just lie to you. They come out to you and they, you know, like I say, they'll send bullies, shaved heads, quite stocky, authoritarian looking, so that you'll be quite scared and you'll, oh my God, what do I do here? I wasn't expecting this. I was watching Coronation Street. You know what I mean? So it's important that you empower yourself that these are just people in fancy dress. That's it. Don't be scared of them. Don't be scared of the knock. Expect it. When you hear that knock, go, this is them. Think of them as thieves at your door coming to rob you. You wouldn't be nice to them, would you? I'm not saying you have to be abusive and anything to them, but you certainly don't have to do what they say. You know, they shouldn't be there. And neither should these people. They should not be on your private property, in your personal space, extorting money from you, okay? Just so they can make a profit and make other people a profit at your expense. They don't care how you get your money, you know? I've seen many of these shows, Can't Pay, We'll Take It Away and stuff like that. I've seen many of them, you know, and each time they just don't care. They say, well, ring family, we'll wait, you know? We'll take you to the cash machine. How much have you got? It's robbery, it's thievery, it's mugging. That's what they're doing. And they're intimidating you to do it. Don't be intimidated by these people. They can't harm you under the law, okay? And because they can't harm you under the law, under common law, first and foremost, they can't do you any harm, right? Any physical harm, right? The rest then is up to you. You just say, well, if you can't do me any harm, you can't put your hands on me, you've got no rights, first of all, to be here, yeah, because I've got a sign that says that's taken away all of your rights, okay, to be here, right? Now, I want you to leave. Focus on that. Create the focal point being about that. I'm going to get rid of these people because I can assure you, right, I can assure you that once you do it and you see them doing that walk of shame and go off to their van and clear off, the energy you feel so empowered. Suddenly it's like you are the master. You won that battle. Yeah, big scary man in big scary uniform. Yeah, with big scary words. And you won. You see? So focus on that, because when you do it, you'll get like me and you'll become addicted to it. And you'll be almost inviting them to your bloody door. You know, come and get some. Come and get some. Bang, bang, bang. Yeah, come on. Here we go. Here we go. Next time I should, in fact, just answer the door with my elongated testicles out. Perhaps no, because they're then just going to look at me and go, oh, I'm so sorry, I had no idea you were vulnerable. We're off. I'll leave it to you. Keep the car. Keep the car. Don't worry about it. Right, so... right, so police don't have any right to be there. They're there to prevent the breach of the peace, okay, when they're called by the bailiffs. And they're only called by bailiffs if either you call them, they're either called, either if you call them or you assault the bailiff and therefore, or you threaten to assault the bailiff and therefore they will call out the police. But you've got no reason to threaten them. Yeah? You've got no reason to be abusive towards them. Stay really calm. It's so important. It gives you all of the power, all of the psychology. Okay? Because what they want is a reaction. That's why they bang so hard on the door. That's why they're wearing what they're wearing. That's why they're using certain choice words. They're using in the letters and enforcement and you could be liable and, you know, this is what they do. It's all intimidation. You see through that. Once you see, it's all bullshit. All of it is bullshit. They don't mean what they're actually saying. Okay? They're just trying to scare you, literally trying to scare you. And if you show, I'm not scared of you, yeah, I'm calm, yeah, did you see the sign? Yes, you did. How would you like to pay? Focus on that. Make that your only focus when they come to your door. It doesn't matter then what the subject matter is. It doesn't matter what they want to get from you, who they want to speak to. You are trespassing. Off you fuck. That's what you do. Or you owe me X amount, according to that tacit consent agreement you just agreed. You knocked on my door. You owe me £1,000 for that. You continue to trespass. You owe me £2,500 for that. You put a clamp on my car. You owe me £1,000 for that. And I'm going to cut it off and claim no liability or responsibility for the damage caused. Yes, my friend.
So if they come onto your property,
yeah,
right, and you say to them, you owe me £1,000 for that, and you
yeah,
owe me £2,500, then they go off, and then they come back on, can you charge them another £2,500?
Yeah, of course you can. Every time they trespass. Every time they trespass, you charge them. Because every time is a different occasion. Once they've left, that
I mean at the same time,
yeah,
they just pop back to their bed.
But once they've left that property, whether it's just over the road to their van, and come back again, they've further trespassed. Another separate occasion they've trespassed. Because once they got onto public property, right, or property that they're entitled to be on, yeah, that trespass is then over. You see? And then it's up to you. If you want to sue them for it, then sue them for it. Personally, my opinion is, I'm not interested in getting money out of them. I'm interested in them not getting money out of me. That's my objective here, is to create this peaceful zone, right? My home, my peaceful zone, the place where my children can grow up in peace without having these fascist bullies trying to bang down my door, you know? So yeah, get them again. If they can't go off and come back, oh, you're trespassing again. Yeah? Again, you can push them off the property. Let them call the police, doesn't matter. The police know these laws. The police know it. And if they don't, they can check with their sergeant or their inspector and they know those laws. Okay, they're very, very clear. Okay, so you are protected. Yes, my lovely.
open the door or not,
Yeah.
you're the first person that's ever said, open the door.
Yeah, damn right.
And
Deal with
that's
it.
very interesting. So would you say that that's your advice, even if someone's alone at home, in their own home but alone?
Right. First of all, if they're a vulnerable person, yeah.
What would you constitute as being vulnerable?
Well, I suppose if they've got any kind of mental health issues, or they're elderly, or they're unwell, or whatever, they're vulnerable. They're registered disabled, they're classed as vulnerable. Okay. So if they're vulnerable, they can't deal with them anyway. It's against the law, and they already know that. As soon as if you say, oh, the person inside is vulnerable, they say, oh, have you got any proof of that? If you showed them a letter, they go, okay, fair enough, we're off. Right? There's footage out there of people doing that, so it does actually work. But you're not going to discuss with them the content of who's vulnerable and who isn't. You're going to focus on that sign. That's it. Just focus on that sign. That way, you can train yourself to know what you're dealing with at that time, rather than it suddenly coming as a shock and a surprise, and it's like, oh, council tax or parking ticket from when, or do you know what I mean?
So you don't feel that, I mean, you've just given a perfect example. We all need a corridor to run down, don't we, really, so as a female, so that we can launch ourselves at whoever's at the door. But if you don't have that corridor, and you're a woman on your own, it's often, forgive me, this is, I appreciate this is a comment, but you could say that women could be taken advantage of, in the sense that men would see that as a weakness. We can overpower this person very easily and get away with it. So that's another reason why I'm kind of having.
Yeah, I mean, another way you can solve that problem, if you're, you're talking about a single woman on their own, they haven't got, they can't charge it. I mean, first of all, they're only going to come into the property if they can turn the handle and it opens. If it's locked somehow and there's no access from outside without a key or somebody letting you in, then they can't break it open. They certainly can't climb in through a window. They can only enter through what is classed as a normal means of entry, and this information is available on the gov.uk website. Okay, if you look up bailiffs or rights, how to deal with bailiffs, on the gov.uk website, it will tell you what rights they've got and what rights they haven't got. And of course, they don't tell people this because they hope that actually they'll be scared enough to just pay up. There was a
Yes, quick question. You mentioned here the owner or the tenant.
Yeah.
So can someone who doesn't own the property, someone who's renting, can put this sign on?
Yes. So the way you have to think of it, right, is that when you rent a property, you are currently under legalese, so not in common law terms of ownership. You are classed as the owner of that property, right, for the purpose of law, right? Because and it's proof in fact, proof of the pudding in the tasting, as they say, right, where a landlord can't just turn up. They have to make an appointment and get permission from the tenant to enter their property. They own the property, but they still have to seek the permission of the owner in inverted commas, right? So it doesn't matter if you're renting, even if you're living there for free, as long as you have a lawful right to be there, legal and lawful right to be there, then you're protected. You are classed as the owner. Yes, Andy.
Davey, I'm sure I'm right in thinking the fact.
You're always right, Andy. No doubt about that.
We always see on these programmes where someone opens the door, they put their foot in the door, preventing the door being closed. As soon as they do that, that's implied trespass straight away.
Well, yes, it is. Yeah, I mean they shouldn't do that, but of course, obviously, some do. I would recommend, like I say, if you're somebody on your own, or you're not that confident, buy a door chain. Open it with a door chain. Yeah, they can't force that. It doesn't matter if they put the foot in; they're going to have to take it out at some point. Because they can't get through that gap. Even a long door chain, so you've got quite a gap. So you're not just talking through that. But it doesn't matter as long as you're talking to them. Talk to them through the letterbox if you want to, but don't hide behind your sofa and refuse to deal with it. Okay? Because yes, they might go away that time, or they might decide, well, we're going to clamp his car, we're going to do this, we're going to do it. You haven't been given that opportunity then to go, oi, what are you doing now? Off you go. Yeah. So that's what you need to do. You need to empower yourself. You have so much power, you just don't realise it, how much power you have. Okay? So once you realise you have that power, and they don't actually have that power, theirs is all a pantomime. It's all nonsense. It doesn't really exist. So they have to act like it's real. They have to act like it exists. Yeah, that's why they create acts. Yeah, it's all acting. The whole thing's a pantomime. Yeah, you have got rights, and powerful rights at that. Yes.
You mentioned about not doing commerce from home. What if you do work from home?
If your home is a registered company, you come under very different set of rules, because if it's if you've got your company address registered somewhere else, but you operate from home, yeah, then that's up to you. That's up to you. That's your choice, right? If your home is your actual registered address on company's house, yeah, then they have got other rights, where they have got the right to gain entry, because it is absolute that it's acting within commerce, right? You can't deny there's commerce there, or there's no commerce there. It's a business address. So I would always advise people, if they're going to set up a business from home, is you can pay for a small fee, right, for a business address, which is essentially like a mailing address, okay? And a mail, it comes with a phone number and everything. And they're usually up in London, in West London, something like West 1, I think, is the large bulk of them. And so you just register your address there. Now, it ties back to your address, but on paper and on the company's website, it will have this other address, which is like a virtual address. It actually exists, but it's just a building where they essentially let out, for that, and have a forwarding service. So your calls will be forwarded automatically through your designated number, and your mail would be forwarded via, that sort of system. So,
On that one, as a self-employed carpenter, I have my home address just with a business title, so I just put my name, country, home address. So I would fall foul of what you were just saying, would I?
Well, you're not registered on company's house now. No, then you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. Okay, it's only when you register as a company, a limited company on company's house, you're then classed as a place of business. What you are is a mobile business who happens to live there. Yeah, and that just happens to be where you're sitting doing your books, your paperwork, or whatever. But your business, if you're self-employed in that sense, right, is wherever you are. Wherever you are. Yeah, it's just that if you set up your home as the company address of a company you've set up, a small business, then that is a live, active company, and they then have rights under commerce rights to that. But when you're an individual, when you're a human being, you are literally that, a living person, and they can't deal with living persons. They're dead entities. You're the living being. The dead can't speak to the living can't speak to the dead, right? So yes.
Okay, going back to limited liability company.
Yeah.
In order to deal with the inland revenue, I took the hint of registering my name as a limited liability company,
Right.
non-trading. So it obviously is attached to my home.
Yeah.
So what can they do with that?
If you're not trading, you're not I suppose it's an active company, isn't it? It's listed on the company's house website as an active.
It can be listed
Dormant.
as a dormant.
As a dormant company, right? Then you don't need to worry about that. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Just send them away. Just say this is currently my place of residence. Off you go. Yeah. So yes, another hand up.
Yeah, is there differences if your vehicle's parked in on private land in an unadopted road?
Yeah.
So you're on private road as well. Is there any differences for them to be?
Say that again. Sorry.
Is there any differences if you've got your vehicles, etc., in a private road or an unadopted road? So it's basically everything you've got or belongs to you is actually on private and private.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially it. Yeah, it's on private property. As long as you include that that bit of private property that your vehicle is on, right, is covered by the trespass. Yeah, it's covered by the trespass. If it's on private, it's all private land. There's no public right of access. If there is a public right of access, yeah, then i.e. non-residents that are allowed to come on without, you know, without without having to be visiting somebody, right? So like a public footpath that goes through it, for example, yeah, then obviously then it's classed as a public place, right? But if it's not, then yeah, it's private road, it's private land.
Does that mean you need to put the signs at the end of private road?
You would, but I would say it's a good idea. You don't have to, as long as wherever that vehicle is, or wherever your home is, or your property is, there is a sign that somebody can see before they interfere with your property. Do you see what I mean? As long as they can see that sign. So that's why I say, if you want people, if you want to put it in your window, right, that's great. As long as your driveway is not half a mile long. Yeah, if your driveway is half a mile long, you probably want to put another one half a mile away. Yeah, you'll notice that the elites do this all the time with their estates, with their golf courses, with their mansion houses. All around the perimeter, they'll have every so often. And it's not that you have to have them every so often. It's just that they want to make sure you see that sign and realise that you're trespassing immediately you step foot on that private property, which you have no right to do if the sign says you have no right to do that. Yes.
Along this line, you're saying if they can prove, say they say, well, it is a business, it's not your person, and you say that then that comes under different rules where they can force entry or they can enter.
If it's a business address, right, they can only take items related to that business, right?
Yeah.
So treat it almost like if you ran a shop or an office, yeah, then they could come in there and take anything they want that is not somebody's personal items, okay? Because anything that is related to the business, including the business vehicle, you know, the company cars, the computers, you know, all of that sort of stuff. That's to do with, but then that's because, like I say, you're operating in a different realm altogether. You're talking about the realm of commerce, whereas when you're in your home, you're not in the realm of commerce.
So they would
You
have
see?
to prove you in that situation. So I'm just thinking, what's this classic? I think of personal circumstances, but obviously you see farms. I mean, farms are classic ones. All their trespassers will be shot. But at the end of the day, a farm is a commerce business, isn't it? So it's meant to. Do you see all these no trespass signs around farms and things? Are you saying that people they'd just be able to march straight in and take the farmer's tractor if they wanted to?
Well, I mean, yes and no. There will be, obviously, within the business sense of it, there will be certain things that are, if they, I mean, they obviously on a farm, it's also his place of residence, right? So yes, you're right. They would be able to come and take the tractor, right? But if they can only do that, right, if they've got a warrant to take control of the goods. Okay, if they don't have a warrant to take control of the goods, they shouldn't be there in the first place. You don't have a contract with them. You see what I mean? So when they're acting as a third-party interloper, as an agent for another company like the council or whoever, they're an agent. Yeah, you don't have a contract with that agent. Yeah, so if they have a warrant, a legitimate warrant, they can take whatever they want. But if they don't have a legitimate warrant, they have a right to a business premises to be there, yeah. But if your home is that business premises, it's a grey area in law, you see, and it would come down to the decision of a judge at the end of the day, whether he decides that is predominantly a business or predominantly a home, which is it first, essentially. And of course, you could then argue, well, this is my home, yeah, that's attached to my business. But also, it's like most of these warrants and stuff like that will go after a particular person, right? And so it's like if you might have an address that is attached to your property, yeah. So a shed you do all your business from, right? That's the only bit they would be able to get if they have a legitimate warrant to get access to. If your home is separate from that, they don't have that right.
But under that, they would still be able to bypass that.
If it's a business presence.
Outbuildings, but this would hold them, that would keep them out your house.
Yeah, that will keep them.
Not necessarily your outbuildings.
No, like I say, business is very different because it's acted in commerce, and you can distinguish the fact that when you're in your home, living your regular normal life, and you're not in your working capacity, you are not acting in commerce. You are a sovereign being in your home. I say I'm known in my home as either Davey by my friends and my family or whatever, or Babe by Jess, or Dad by my kids. Yeah, I'm not known as David Paul Stewart or Mr. David Paul Stewart. He doesn't exist in my house. Do you see what I mean? He exists in a virtual world. When I'm online shopping, that's a different world. That's a window to a different world. That's not in my house. It's elsewhere, a factory or server somewhere else. Yeah. In my house, I am sovereign, and everybody in my house is sovereign. We're known either by a nickname or our chosen name, not our given name, our chosen name. Nobody ever goes into, you don't say to, I've got a mate, Adam. I don't say, excuse me, Adam Stanbridge. Do you know what I mean? Adam Stanbridge, can I have a drink, please, Adam Stanbridge? I'll call him mate or Adam or, depends if he's pissed me off or not, what I call it, really. So, yeah, it's like you're not that business then. You're not acting in commerce at that point, you see, in your home. So that's what your ultimate protection is. If you're talking about business premises, then of course you are definitely acting in commerce. And they've gone, he agrees with me, so can you go and get my money for me? Yeah, because he agrees with me. That's it. It's not him telling him to go and get that money and I'll sign it off and give you the authority to storm into that house and take that property. That's not how it works. They lie to you. It's not a warrant. Warrants are not issued willy-nilly like that. Okay, there's a lot to a warrant. Yeah, and a lot of responsibility that falls on one individual's shoulders, which is the person who signs that warrant. So a judge or a magistrate, right? He doesn't know all the facts of the case. He wants to know all the facts of the case because he is taking personal liability and responsibility for that warrant. So if they've lied to them about, to obtain that warrant, yeah, he's the one that's liable. And he doesn't want that, right? He's liable in law, in Admiralty law. He is given his authority, and that signature and that judge's stamp says, I accept all liability of anything that happens if it goes wrong. Okay? If it turns out that they're not liable, and you've actually lied to me, I'm still liable because I should have insisted you gave me enough evidence to prove that the warrant was necessary.
What I've noticed with them so far is they have a stamp, but there's no signature.
Yeah, but anyone can have a stamp, can't they? And the thing is, the stamp is just the stamp of the organisation or the company. The signature is somebody endorsing it. That's a contract has to be endorsed by a person. A contract can be tacit contract, i.e. you do it by your actions, because if you can prove that they did that by their actions, yeah, then you can prove there's liability there. Whether you can enforce it or not, it comes down to how patient you are and what process you take, and what intimidation techniques you use to get the money out of them. Do you know what I mean? Or send other people to their house. So yeah, it all comes down to fear at the end of the day. They haven't got that lawful or legal authority. It's just a hired judge for the day in a corporate court, which is actually an unlawful court at the end of the day. But nobody's going to bring that down anytime soon. So we need to just learn how to deal with the fact that these are, these corporate courts are fraudulent. They don't operate. They're actually unlawful. But still, they're here. We have to deal with them. And the thing about a corporate court in that sense is it has no real authority. Yeah? It only has authority if you give it the consent for that authority. It's just somebody's opinion saying, I agree with him. That's all it is. And because in legal terms, you're always, or your legal fiction is always assumed to be liable if accused of being liable, so you're guilty until proven innocent. And what you do in court is when you go, if you turn up in court, so if you don't turn up in court in a criminal court case, i.e. you punch somebody in the face, right, and you're up on an assault now in a criminal Crown Court, yeah, then if you don't turn up at court, they don't just run it and go ahead and say, oh, well, he's guilty then for not turning up, right? What they do is they issue a warrant for your arrest to bring you before the court so they can deal with this case with you there, right? That's not the same in a corporate court with all this legal stuff, with council tax and all of that, right? If you don't turn up, you're already guilty. Not because you didn't turn up, just because you're already guilty. The liability always falls on you. You're always guilty. What you have to do, well, if you did go to court, is do what's called in legalese, is to create a controversy. And that's the job normally of your solicitor or your barrister, is to create a controversy. Okay? And then what that does, like a game of tennis, probably why it's called a court, right? Because it's batting backwards and forwards. So you bat back and say, prove the liability. Where's your evidence? And they go, oh, well, we've got these papers here, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they batted it back again. And you look at those and say, that's not the evidence. Yeah, that's evidence of nothing. Where's my signature? You batted it back again. Right? Whoever's ball that court ends up in is the loser in that game. Right? If you batted it back enough times and insisted, right, that you will admit liability if they can prove to you that you are actually liable. They've got some solid proof. If they've got an actual person who can give a witness testimony and say, yes, I saw him agree to that, or I heard him create that contract. Yeah. They could also use, of course, certain evidence, but of course, just like your car, if you're caught on a speeding ticket, right, on a fixed camera, right, how does anybody know it's you? Oh, well, it's your number plate. It's definitely your car. How do you know? I could get a number plate like that, probably for about a tenner, yeah, and pop it on my car from another, you know, copy somebody else's number plate. Prove to me that it was me. But of course you can't. The only image you've got is when I went past the camera from behind, which got an image of the back of my car and a number plate. That could be anybody. It's called cloning. Yeah. So they'll take you to court and they want their fine and they want their points on your license so they can charge you more for your insurance and make more money on their investment portfolios in insurance companies, you know, like those people who make the laws have got. Yeah, they just want to keep sort of charging you money all the time. So then you have to bat it back again and say, prove it. That doesn't prove anything. It just proves a car that looks remarkably similar to mine with the same number plate that somebody's, you know, could easily have stuck on there. Prove to me that was me. Where's the image of me going, hey, to the camera? You can't prove that, yeah? There's nobody there that says, oh, yeah, that's the man I saw driving past there when that camera went off and took the picture. Then they've got evidence. And then it comes down to a judgment call of whether that evidence is believed or not, or whether this person, but then generally, it is generally believed. But that's not going to be the situation with a fixed speeding situation. Right, so I'm going to move on to the next bit because this is super important. Right, promissory note. Now, how many of you here have heard of a promissory note? How many of you have used a promissory note? Okay, I would argue that more of you should have put that your hands up. So, promissory notes. £10 note in your pocket is a promissory note. It says on it, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of £10. Right? So all of you have used promissory notes. You just didn't realise there were promissory notes. How many here have signed a credit agreement? You created a promissory note. A credit agreement is a promissory note. It sets out the terms of payment. It sets out the amount that is owed, the amount of repayments, the payment schedule, when the date of the month that it's due, yeah, and the interest rate in which that will be applied to each individual repayment. So a credit agreement is a promissory note. The true fact is, right, promissory notes are essential for businesses to run throughout the world, right? But again, they don't teach you about these promissory notes, because then you won't be debt enslaved, you see. So how many people here have a mortgage, right? This will pay off your mortgage in one go. And I'm going to explain why it will pay off your mortgage in one go, okay? The reason it pays off your mortgage in one go is because it's legally acceptable. It becomes a financial instrument according to the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, Section 4, which sets out the definition of what a promissory note is. Okay, it's an IOU. It says, I owe you this money, right? But in itself, it acts as full payment, just like the IOUs in the form of £10 and £20 notes. They act as full payments for the goods or services that you're receiving, right? It doesn't matter about who collects on that and what there's some and who takes it to the Bank of England and etc., etc. It only matters that it was created and delivered, and then it's protected under law, right? Now, a lot of people ask me, oh, do you know anyone who's, ever done this? Well, yeah, there's case law. It's called Fielding and Platt Limited versus Salim Najjar, 1969, sitting under Lord Denning. It's written on the promissory note, under where it says promissory note. Lord Denning's ruling, which can never be overruled, case law is concrete law. It means it's being tried and tested in court, and a high-ranking judge has deemed that that's the decision, right? And no other judge will overrule that decision, no matter what. That is now concrete. Everything else is just hearsay until it's tested in court. This has been tested in court, and Lord Denning's judgment said that a promissory note must be treated as cash, right? Now, how it works, right, with a mortgage, let's say. So, who here said they had a mortgage? Anyone? Right. How much do you owe on your mortgage, approximately, top figure?
It's 80.
80 grand, right. So, 80 grand, right? You fill this out. Okay, what you do, this promissory note was issued at, at the place it was issued, it doesn't have to be the specific house number, you could say issued in Netherfield, East Sussex. Yeah, you could just say that. The date that it was issued, the amount at the top, there's two amounts there, the top amount in numbers, right, so £80,000. Underneath, the amount in words, just like you would do if you fill out a cheque. Okay, you put it in words. Yeah, £80,000 only. Okay. Then, underneath is the declaration. This certifies that you fill it in with your name, your date of birth to create that joinder to your birth certificate, your birth trust. Hereby promise to pay, and the name of the holder. So this is the important bit, right? If it's the Halifax Bank, right, then put Halifax PLC, right? But you send it, you don't just send it to or hand it over at the counter at your local Halifax branch. This has to go, and I'll get to this in a minute, it has to go to a specific head of a specific department, okay? Just to save you any time and hassle and anything like that later on down the line, because it's a very, very easy process. Right. Hereby promise to pay the name of the person, which brackets becomes the holder, known as the holder, the full amount on this note for value received. Now, it's important you put for value received because it has to be, in order to be eligible to be deemed as a promissory note, that there has to have been some value, whether it's goods or services, right? So they provided you a service of the money, even though you created that money. That was you that created that money. When you created that promissory note, what you did, they didn't. So let's say you go to the bank, you borrow £80,000 from the bank, right? They don't take that out of their account and put that into your account. They don't go over and take it from one room and put it into another room. They create a new room, okay? That's money creation. That's how it's created into society, okay? So those digits are created, yeah? But they didn't exist in the first place. And that's the problem with fiat currency, right? But again, it can work to your favour with something like this, right? So you create that £80,000. It wasn't there before. Yeah? They're not giving you their 80 grand. They're making you create it. Then, by a contract, they're getting you to pay them back that 80 grand that you created, plus interest, right? So you've created this money, yeah, with your promissory note. That is now a tradable financial instrument on the international markets. And they're sold as bundles, basically. They're sold as bundles in all shapes and sizes and forms. So this will go along with lots of other credit agreements and other contracts that all are deemed to be promissory notes. And they'll go as an investment bundle. And they're traded around the world. Okay? But what will happen is your mortgage company, when you create that promissory note in the form of your credit agreement, right, you agree to give them that money back. They'll give you the money that you've created, but you've got to give it back to them and pay them interest as well. And you're going to secure it on your property, right? Your house is now mortgaged. Yeah, it's a secured loan, okay? What this does is separates the mortgage from the home, okay, from the property, okay? It settles the mortgage by creating a brand new debt, but an unsecured debt. That's the important thing about it. It's an unsecured debt. So if you didn't make good on that, right, then your house is not at risk. It's a separate debt, okay? The amount that it was worth, that you gave it value, that you created into existence, just like you created the credit agreement, the promissory note, right? You created that money into existence. Yeah, you're creating this money into existence. Yeah, and paying them with that. Now, what they'll do, they make their money anyway, because that is full and final settlement, right? And you need to get it endorsed. I'll go through that in a minute. Very simple process, right? That settles the debt, yeah, and creates a brand new unsecured debt. Right? They can no longer take your home. You now have the right to the deeds to your home. Okay? So you paid your mortgage, but you've got a different debt. Now, the amount that of your repayments, I don't know how much your mortgage is, give me amount each month roughly. It doesn't have to be exact or right even.
250.
250 quid, right. So you don't want to pay 250 quid a month. You could better use that money, right? You decide, I can afford to give you 20 quid a month, yeah? So I'm going to put down £20 a month in the box for the amount here, where it says, I hereby promise to pay holder the full amount on this note for value received. The payment will be made in monthly instalments of, and that's where you would put your, say, £20 a month, plus interest of whatever interest rate you set. So you could say, 5% interest, right? So you're now owe them £10.50. On the date, the day of the month that you want them for it to be eligible to be collected. So what you're saying is, right, so say you chose the first of the month, and that's what you put on the note. The first of the month, they have to collect that money from you. Not digitally, unless you want to pay it digitally, in which case you can choose to, you can give them that option, but you're not giving them that option, okay? What you're saying is, on the first day of every consecutive month until the obligation has been fulfilled, the payment can be obtained by the holder at, and that's where you fill in the address where they can obtain their £10 a month. Now, of course, they're not going to come out and get that because it costs more than £10 in fuel, in paying somebody's wages to come and collect that. But it doesn't matter because this is how money works. This is how cash works. It's based purely on trust. That's it. Okay? Nobody ever takes their notes, their bank notes, back to the Bank of England and said, well, I'd like to cash this in now, please. You take a £20 note to the Bank of England, they'll probably give you two £10 notes. You know, 2 more promissory notes. And that is because the reason they can do that, right, is because you can pay debt with debt. You do it all the time. Business does it all the time. Okay, your money is debt. It doesn't exist in reality. It's debt. It's an IOU. I promise to pay the bearer, right? So it's nothing but based on pure trust. But it's official. It's got the official stamp. It's got the watermark. It's got everything official. That particular banknote is copywritten by the Bank of England. So when you copy them, it's not because you're not allowed to make your own money. It's got nothing to do with that. You're not allowed to copy their copywritten money, right? Their copywritten promissory note. So you're actually being done for copyright fraud, essentially, when you copy their banknotes, because they have exclusive rights to produce those particular notes in those particular colours with that particular papers and design, etc., right? That's all that is. You create money all the time. Every credit agreement you've ever signed, you created that money. You created it into existence. And that's why, over time, the price of things rise. Because the money in society, with these being created all of the time, right, waters down the value of the rest of the money. Because there's much more of it. Okay? So, you fill this in. Where do we get to? Obtained by the holder at, so you put your address or wherever you want them to collect it from on that particular date. I hereby give permission to the holder and or the holder in due course of this promissory note to use this note in any way necessary as a negotiable instrument to be financially traded on, whereas such trade shall terminate the obligation herein. Now, let me explain that. Well, that means you've made the payment, you sent them the promissory note, okay? Don't worry about if they don't accept it. They send you a letter to say, well, we don't accept that payment. That's brilliant. That's a result for you, and I'll explain why in a minute, right? As soon as you've issued a promissory note, right, the moment it's received, whether it's accepted or not, the moment it's received, it becomes a negotiable financial instrument under the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, right? So you pay this, let's say you fill this out with all the details. At the top right-hand corner, you'll notice there's a little box, blank box, that says note number. That note number is whatever you want it to be. You're making this note. This is your reference number that you make up. Use a combination of the date, your date of birth, the number, you know, whatever you want. It doesn't have to mean anything. It just has to be a number that you keep a record of on your payments, because what you've also got is this, which is your record sheet, your index sheet. So there's enough there for 10 promissory notes, okay? And what you do is you fill this out. So you've got one promissory note here, you could print your own off or whatever, and, you know, fill them out as such. So you put the date, name of the recipient, the note number, which you've written at the top right-hand corner there, the amount that it's for, so £80,000, and any notes that you want to put. You know, that's just a little bit for if you want to make a note of something or a particular point. So what this does now, this is your record. So when you send this off, now when this is filled in, right, what endorses this is obviously your signature. But you need to get your signature witnessed to prove that it was definitely you that signed that note. Okay? So I've created there a box for a stamp. Yeah? Because the stamp gives it further authenticity. That's the point. These things are all based on trust at the end of the day. Right? So you could write, technically, you could write a promissory note on one of those little jotter pads, scrap of paper, rip it off with the little hooks going through, all scrappy looking, and write, I owe you £80,000, signed me. Yeah, that's still a promissory note, but is that really going to be taken seriously? No. Yeah, nobody's going to take that seriously. You want it to be taken seriously just to create it doesn't matter at the end of the day in the bigger scheme of things, it's still legal tender, right? But you want it to be taken more seriously so that they gives you less hassle, right? And talking of the hassle, okay, it will be a case of you pay it off, right? They send you a letter back to say, and this is what is so great about this process. As soon as they say, first of all, you send it off, registered post, recorded delivery, right? So you've got a tracking number and a record that you can then get a copy of online from the Royal Mail website, whatever, right? To show that it's been delivered. Because that's all ultimately what you want is proof it's been delivered. Once you can prove it's been delivered, Bills of Exchange Act 1882 kick in immediately, okay? And it now has value. Now, if they're sending you a letter back saying, oh, we don't accept that, we don't take promissory notes, no, we don't take that. Well, one or two things is happening here, right? Either they don't realise that business exists upon promissory notes and that if you'd sent them cash, they'd have happily accepted it, right? And this is cash under the terminology of what it states under that promissory note bit that says about Lord Denning's ruling and the 1882 Bills of Exchange Act. Or they're saying the debt doesn't really exist. Yeah? Because if they're not accepting a legal, legitimate form of payment, yeah, which is what this is, and if you don't believe me, check out the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, Section 4, and check out Fielding and Platt Limited versus Salim Najjar 1969. And Lord Denning's ruling, and you will see that that's your proof. That's all you need. All you need is for them to send you something that says we don't accept that. Yeah, brilliant. Now I've got proof that you received it. Yeah, you've just proven to me that you got that in your hand, looked at it, and said no, don't want that. So now what you're saying is, if you don't want it, there is no debt. There is no debt, right? What you then need to do is take steps yourself, right? Because what you'll probably find is that they'll take the next payment at your account. Then you take them to the small claims court. It costs you about £60, I think it is, for a small claim, right? For the amount that they've taken off you, plus your time, because you're entitled under the law to charge for your time. So you could charge £100 an hour, you know, for example, for your time, for your legal time. And considering a solicitor charges probably £250 an hour, you know, that's considered to be reasonable under the law. Chances are they won't turn up. Brilliant. Excellent. You didn't turn up, you're automatically guilty because you're a corporation. You're a legal fiction, you're a corporation. So if you don't turn up, the liability order is given in my name, right? I can then escalate that to the, if they refuse to pay that back, I can then escalate that to the High Court, right? And the High Court will send their bailiffs to go to that place, to the Halifax, and threaten to take all their computers and company vehicles and so on and so forth. That is the law, okay? That is how the process works. Again, they're not going to tell you this. They're not going to tell you this at school, because then you won't be a debt slave. If you're a debt slave, if you're not a debt slave, you won't need to work 60 hours a week just to pay your mortgage. Yeah? You won't need to do that. You can work 20 hours a week just to have some spending money at the weekends. You know? So these are legally accepted. If you don't believe me, research them and you will find out that, yes.
Sorry, just a quick question. I thought I just lost something then. You said don't go and hand this in over the counter at Halifax or wherever. What was you saying? Go to CEO or something?
Right, so yes, well you need to send it. Okay, so again, you don't want to give this to the poor cashier, they won't know what to do with it, and it will get lost in the system, and etc., etc. Right? What you want is for this to get through to the accounts department, the department, whoever it is that deals with taking your payments. Okay, and you want to address, because it also, I've supplied a covering letter, a blank, that you could just fill in pen. Okay, and this covering letter, it says, without prejudice, to, so you put the details of the bank and the person you want to address it to. So not necessarily their personal name, but their job title, for example, right? So Chief Accounts Officer, Halifax, whatever department. This is information you can either find out online, which is who deals with your, or you can just, with a phone call, find out if you made a payment tomorrow, which department would deal with it. Yeah. Don't tell them, I've got a promissory note that I've just written out here, because they're going to go, well, I'm not going to give you advice then, am I? I'm not going to help you. They think they're getting a payment. Well, they'll give you all the info you want. Yeah, are you sure you don't want to just put a payment over bank transfer? No. I just want the details right now. I'm considering making the payment, but who do I speak to about my account or the payments on my account? Yeah, that's the person you want to address it to. Yeah, and when you address it and it's delivered and you've got the proof, you've got your Royal Mail tracking info. Yeah, get a print out of that and a copy of it or a photo of it or whatever it is, because the Royal Mail only keep that for a year, right, up to a year, that tracking information. So you want a copy of that. But if you don't need that, if they've sent you a letter saying we don't accept this, we don't take promissory notes. Doesn't matter what they say, they have to take it. It's done now, it's a done deal. Under the Bills of Exchange Act, that's now a financial instrument. It's got value now, right? It's got value because somebody witnessed, and this is the thing, the witness part of it, right? What you want to do is find an authority or a business or a notary public, whatever you want. Notary public will charge you about £5 or whatever it is, and they're just witnessing your signature. They're assuming no liability for what's within it, or the debt or anything like that. They are literally saying, yes, I saw him sign that note. Yeah, here's my official stamp in the official stamp box. So if you do need to check with me, any authority needs to check with me, or anybody the holder of the note wants to find out, is this real? Which they don't, but technically, legally, you have to do that. So they're just basically saying, yeah, I saw him sign that. Yeah, and it can be anyone. It could be a council. It could be a police station. It could be HOPE Sussex. They're a registered charity. Do you know what I mean? And what you want is some organisation, that is not just your mate Bob down the road. That's essentially why. That's why you want the stamp as well, because it's, again, given its authenticity. Now, just the signature will do it, but the stamp helps. It's a visual sign that this is an official document, and therefore reduces the conflict you will get back from them. It doesn't matter if you get conflict, because you're protected in law under that case law.
Sorry, just another
yes.
thing. So if you're married, should this not be like a joint signature kind of thing? So if one is like...
It can be, or it could be one or the other. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It can be both people. It can be two people.
It wouldn't be that, oh, well, you've done that bit, but that other half, they have to pay.
No. You're paying the full amount of what the debt is for. It doesn't matter whose it is. I could do this and pay your mortgage. It doesn't have to be my mortgage. Do you know what I mean? It's not your banknotes when you're paying. It's somebody else's promissory notes, but you're still paying for your goods or services or debt or whatever it is. So it makes no difference. So you would only really need to do one person doing it. Yeah. It can be anybody. Yes.
So before we get to the point where it's refused or that stage, we're setting up an agreement to say that we will pay a certain amount each month.
Yeah.
And we are we are deciding the interest per month?
Yeah, you decide it.
Okay.
You decide it.
And we are willing to set up like a regular direct debit to the bank. So we're setting up our own mortgage agreement.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
All right.
You're settling the debt.
Okay.
You've got a separate debt, completely separate to what your mortgage was. Your mortgage is now paid. The deeds now transfer to you. If they refuse to transfer those deeds to you, go to the court and get a court order to force them to release those deeds to you. That's now paid. You've got your proof that's paid. Yeah, like I say, check out the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, Section 4, and Fielding and Platt Limited versus Salim Najjar 1996. That tells you, that states what the ruling is. That's your protection, your concrete protection. You've issued it, they've received it, it's now paid. That's it. This is now a separate, completely separate issue. Yeah. You can, if you want, you can say to them, I'll pay you £20 a month straight into your bank. But you don't really want them collecting on that, right? What you want is to create, you've got every right to name the place and the method of payment and how it takes place. You set out the terms and conditions yourself, which you're perfectly entitled to do in law, right? It doesn't matter because they're going to sell this on the international markets. Right? If it says £80,000 there, they're probably going to get, I don't know, maybe £5,000 for it. Right? They'll sell it for about £5,000. Probably less than that, to be honest. But it doesn't matter because they're not losing anything, are they? They didn't give you £80,000. You gave you £80,000. Yeah. So they didn't have that £80,000 in the first place to give you. The fact that they've now got £5,000 for an £80,000 note means they're £5,000 up. Do you see what I mean?
So if you have a sorry,
That's all
I'm
right,
not trying to be
fine.
difficult.
No.
But if you have like in my first year of a new mortgage agreement,
Yeah.
and there's a clause in it where if you come out of that agreement within the first year, there's a £7,000 fine, and then it goes down with each year.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Add that to the amount. Find out from your mortgage company that if you paid tomorrow, how much do they want from you? If you settled your mortgage tomorrow with all penalties, all fines, doesn't matter. Add it all in. Add a cup of coffee as well if you want. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Add it all in. Yeah. What do you want from me? How much do you want from me to settle this debt? Yeah. What amount will settle this debt? The amount they tell you is the amount you put on your promissory note.